As we eagerly await the return of the Owl House and for Luz to finally attend Hexside, one of the biggest questions is what track will Luz end up joining? Now, the Season 1B promo was initially released following Escape of the Palisman and shown on cable, but it has recently been uploaded in all of its HD glory on Disney's YouTube channel. And we know from this shot here, it looks like Luz is wearing both a green and light purple uniform, so it's likely we'll see her trying out more than one track. I've already done a video going over all the tracks in Covens and which one Luz is most likely to join, so check that out if you'd like. But a question that I still have is revolving around something Willow said in episode 3, I Was a Teenage Abomination.
You can do it! Even if you get a bad grade, it's not a reflection of you as a witch. And my parents are right. There are better opportunities on this track. Now get to school!
From this statement, we learn that certain tracks are more highly regarded, such as the Abominations track. But why exactly? We've seen a little bit of what abominations can do in I Was a Teenage Abomination and Covens. We know they are created by witches and they are expected to follow orders and commands. And it doesn't seem that they only follow the orders of the witch who created them, as shown when Amity is able to control a group of them at the end of I Was a Teenage Abomination. We also know that there are at least 2 ways to create abominations. We see that abominations are created in cauldrons when mixing certain ingredients inside, and it's shown that there are varying degrees of success with this. Willow's looks like mush, this one has too many toenails, and Amity's is the ideal abomination to create. However, we also see in Covens that Amity is able to summon an abomination simply by drawing a circle. I'm guessing once you master creating an abomination through a cauldron, you are likely able to summon one with no ingredients or cauldron required. But it should be noted that abominations summoned this way are smaller than those created via a cauldron, which does make sense considering the lack of ingredients and resources. That's not to say that these abominations are weak though. As we see, even Amity's little abomination here can still pack a punch. And obviously, the power glyph that Lilith placed on Amity, increasing her power, caused her abomination to grow in size and power as well. Now, abominations don't seem to be the smartest, but for what they lack in intelligence, they make up for it with brute force. Abominations appear to be pretty strong and also seem to be able to continually take hits, as shown in I Was a Teenage Abomination, when they are able to reform after being impaled by Willow's vines. And Amity is even able to reform some of them on her own. We also see in Covens that they can be lit on fire without much of a problem and can survive being dropped several feet from the air with little issue. It seems that abominations are obedient soldiers, and when you look at them that way, it makes sense why abominations would be so highly regarded. We've had some foreshadowing about how the Emperor's Coven is probably not the upstanding force of justice that it tries to portray. Considering that the Emperor's Coven is the only coven that still has access to all forms of magic, and as Lilith even says,
"Now I have the highest honor of enforcing the Emperor's will, so be more! The Emperor's Coven awaits you!"
It seems kinda sketchy. So in a system where only one coven gets to keep all of their powers out of the apparent hundreds, and it's the coven who literally protect and serve Emperor Belos, there's definitely some oppression here. And in an oppressive system like this, it would make sense that you may want some mindless soldiers who will just follow orders without asking any questions. Thus, abominations are seen as valuable, and pursuing that track or coven provides better opportunities for that witch. But this got me thinking about the other tracks and covens in the show. Where would they rank? Keep in mind that we have yet to see all the tracks at Hexside, and for this video I will be using a since deleted post from Disney TV Animation that actually listed all of the tracks before officially being shown in the show. So if you want to remain completely spoiler free and have the rest of the tracks be a surprise until Luz actually attends, then I would suggest clicking off this video now. But with that, let's take a look at the other tracks and see where they would rank. I'm not going to do this in numerical order since there is still a lot we don't know about tracks. Rather, I'm going to put them into groups based on how valuable the Society of the Boiling Isles may deem them. So first up we have the bar track. This has yet to be actually shown, but we can see from this image that there is heavy emphasis on music. But this could also extend to other art forms as well. I don't see the Boiling Isles valuing the arts that much, so I see the bar track and coven being in its own group of the arts on its own. Up next, the plant magic track and coven. We already know from Willow's situation that the plant magic track isn't as highly regarded as the abomination track. However, I still see a lot of potential in it. Considering that we are in a magical fantasy world, I see plants being incredibly beneficial in the use of making potions. Additionally, while the Boiling Isles is definitely different from the human world, I am assuming that they do grow and harvest produce for food. So because of this, I am putting plants in a group I am calling utilitarian, which to me means that these tracks and covens have a purpose that directly benefits and supports the Boiling Isles. Since plants are likely used as both a source for potion ingredients and also food, I see the plant track and coven being fairly important. Next up, I'm going to go over both the illusions and the oracle track together. These tracks are a bit harder to place in a group. We've seen a bit of illusion magic from Gus. He can teleport short distances and also make clones of himself, which is pretty impressive. We've also seen a bit from Edric and Emera being able to physically change their appearance. It seems that the illusion track covers a lot in terms of what spells and abilities its users have. And because of that, it's a bit harder to place in a group. So until we see more, I'm just going to put it in a miscellaneous group. Since illusions seem to have a broad range of spells, they likely have different uses on the Boiling Isles that will vary. Up next, we have the Oracle track and coven. And out of all the tracks and covens, this is probably the most mysterious since we have not seen any oracle magic yet. Based on this image though, there appears to be a ghost or spirit of some sort. I would assume that oracle magic has to do with communicating with the deceased or spirits and possibly using their power. We've also seen that fortune tellers are associated with the Oracle Coven, so I'm just going to place it in its own group called the Occult. I wouldn't place it in miscellaneous with illusions since there can be many uses in cloning yourself or physically changing your appearance. Whereas the Oracle track seems to focus in specifically on the supernatural and paranormal. The next three, Beastkeeping, Construction, and Healing, I'm going to place in the Utilitarian group. Construction and healing are fairly obvious. We saw in Convention how quickly a Construction Coven member was able to build an entire house. And although we have yet to see healing magic be used, I'm assuming that instead of nurses, doctors, and hospitals, the Boiling Isles has those practiced in healing magic. And I also see healing magic users working closely with the potions and plant magic covens. So we've got a coven that handles all the construction and a coven that handles all the healing, but what about the Beastkeeping Coven? We have not officially seen anything in the show yet about beastkeeping. However, I would guess that the demon hunters would be the closest thing to beastkeeping members. And as we see later in episode 10, Escape of the Palisman, they are also animal control on the Boiling Isles. Outside of the demon hunters though, I could also see beastkeeping magic used in a way similar to plant magic being used for food, in that beastkeeping magic could be used to care for livestock, in which case it would definitely be essential to the Boiling Isles. I already went into detail on the Abomination track and Coven, and given to how useful an army of abominations could be for the Emperor's Coven, I would put the abominations in a military or defense category of its own. The Emperor's Coven definitely seems to like power, so having an army of soldiers who will follow orders without question seems to be something that they would value. Though abominations could be created to have as a personal helper or a bodyguard, I think what we saw in Convention and Amity's powered up abomination, these things are meant to be a force to be reckoned with. Lastly, the Potions track and Coven. Similar to the Illusions track, I can see potions being able to fulfill many different needs and have multiple uses on the Boiling Isles. From Witches Before Wizards, we see some of the potions that Luz hands out are simpler like boil cream or snake oil. Though we also see that there are potions like Ida's that are intended to keep her curse under control. As I said before, the Potions Coven likely works closely with the Plant and Healing Covens, both of which I consider to be utilitarian in helping support the Boiling Isles. However, I could see potions having many other uses outside of the situations we have seen so far. I could potentially see potions that grant increased power similar to the power glyphs that we saw in Convention. Maybe there are potions that can grant temporary uses of other covens' magic. Again, like with many other covens, it's hard to say since we've only gotten a glimpse. But for this, I'm going to put the potions in both the utilitarian and miscellaneous groups. Utilitarian because we've seen potions that have practical uses already. However, there seems to be a lot of potential for other potions that have more interesting uses. But as it stands right now, abominations seem to be the most valued due to the Emperor's affinity towards power. Then we have our utilitarian group, which benefit, help, and support the Boiling Isles and its citizens. We have our miscellaneous group, which could have multiple uses to help other covens or multiple districts of the Boiling Isles. And then we have our occult and art group hanging out at the bottom. Keep in mind that these are just my own thoughts and that there is definitely room for discussion in how the covens can be ranked and grouped. And I'm sure as the Owl House continues, these groups and rankings will change. But I eagerly await the return of the Owl House so we can see Luz attend Hexside and get a better understanding of all the tracks and what they have to offer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay safe, and until next time guys, take care.